Hello, everybody. I just wanted to talk a little bit today about the history of information security. So I started about 20 years ago. Let's see, I was 13. I'm 37, so that's 24 years ago. I started out in just toying around and as cybersecurity as a hobby. I was kind of a mischievous teenager, preteen, teenager, and I found out how I had dial-up internet at home at the time, and I found out how to do things like the ping of death, and I was able to kick people offline and teachers offline, and just kind of joke around and have a good time. Never really malicious, just mischievous, and just having a good time. That was my first taste of joining IRC and getting involved in IRC and getting involved in all the nerd culture and geek culture and all of that. And so as time progressed, I was about 15 when I decided I wanted to go to my first cybersecurity meetup. Back then, there wasn't all these meetups that they have today. There was really only about 2,600. 2,600 was about the only one in our area that we had, and it was at a place called Lennox Mall. And I went there one day, and it was closed down. There wasn't anybody at the meeting. The meeting had died. It has since, the good news, it has since been revived and is a thriving community today, but there was a period when it died. So then I didn't give up. I got an older friend of mine, and I talked him in. We were going to drive to Auburn. Auburn campus in Alabama had a 2,600 meeting, and we drove out there, and it was gone too. There wasn't the 2,600 meeting died in Auburn. So we made that long drive, and it died. And so it wasn't until many years later that I actually did get to meet people in person. But over the years, I met a lot of people online, in IRC chat rooms and Yahoo chat rooms, and people that I know today, that are big names in the industry. And I kind of just, I was younger than them. I'm still younger than them and younger than them back then. And that's kind of how they looked at me. But, I got to know them, and we used to sit around and we talked about everything. So it was fast forward some more years. There's 5 or 6, 7, 8 years or so that I was still doing the IRC thing and experimenting and doing some pen testing and building my own labs and so fast forward, I decided I wanted to make a career out of this hobby of mine, and I was 17. I was 17 when I decided I wanted to start college for cybersecurity. And I did. And my bachelor's took me, I went to undergrad at DeVry. My bachelor's took me like 8 years or something. I didn't finish it all at once. I took a break. I went a couple years on campus, and then I actually did my schoolwork on campus at DeVry location, and then the latter half of it online in Hawaii. So I went to Hawaii, and I was about 21 or so, 22. I went to Hawaii, and I spent a lot of time in a chat room called ISD Podcast chat room. And this was a podcast that they used to have. It was a daily information security podcast. And it was great. A lot of the big names used to show up there. We used to chat in the IRC room, and every day we used to just talk about the news. And it's a lot like Black Hills Information Security, talking about security, where they have the kind of chat room and they kind of sync everything and everything. Except this wasn't on video, and this wasn't in Discord. It was in IRC. But we used to get together every day and we talk about the news. And during the day, we used to talk about everything else. Everything, and nothing was off limits. We used to talk about everything. And back then, rock stars were a thing. People rose to the positions of fame because of their skill. And this was different than influencers today, where the influencers have kind of grown to fame because of their hair grease and video editing skills. No, these rock stars back in the day were really, really good at cybersecurity, and everybody wanted to be like them because they were good at security, not because they were popular, but not because they ended up with these rock star lifestyles, these fancy cars and multiple houses and exotic vacations, and everybody wanted their lifestyles, but most importantly, most people wanted their skill. These rock stars they became famous for how good they were, not because they were influencers. So it was a day and age of the rock stars, and it was a time when a lot of the more prominent people in cybersecurity were fighting to shape the industry. They wanted the industry to turn out their way. They wanted there are problems in the industry like there are today, and they wanted to kind of shape the industry and see it kind of go their way. And it was still a new industry at the time, so it was very malleable and shapeable. So there are a lot of people and a lot of names. There's more drama back then, I'd say, than there is today. There's still some drama today, but it wasn't like it was back then. The industry is so big nowadays, hardly anybody knows anybody. Back then, everybody kind of knew everybody. You're one connection away from pretty much everybody in cybersecurity. If you didn't know them, you knew somebody that knew them, and that was everybody in cybersecurity. And so with that kind of connection, and there's just a lot of drama. There's a lot to talk about. It made things interesting. Drama's not bad all the time. A lot of good things come out of drama. People complain and things change, people complain and things stay the same. They make decisions based on the problems that arise. And conferences were still popping up. There are lots of conferences today. There are too many conferences today. There are far too many conferences today. But back then, there were really the only conferences back then were there was DEF CON. DEF CON has been around for a long time. It's one of the original conferences, I'd say. SANS, when SANS first started, SANS was only a conference when it first started. And then Stephen Northcutt came along, and he helped grow the business into a certification and training business. But it started out as just a conference. So there's SANS, and there was DEF CON, and there's Black Hat, and then Derby came along. DerbyCon came along a little bit later. That's sadly been shut down. And there's a few others, but there wasn't nearly as many conferences as there are today. But there were still some smaller meetups. So there's some smaller meetups. It was a little harder to network in person than it is today, but it was still possible. I wanted to go to DEF CON ever since I was 13. I finally had a chance to go just about, 6 or 7 years ago, 8 years ago or something. And I had the time of my life, and it was worth every minute of waiting. Definitely highly suggest going to DEF CON if you can. It's a lot of fun. So, the rock stars kind of paved the way for what, everybody that was new in the industry wanted to be like the rock stars because they had the money and they had the fame and they had the lifestyles. And a lot of people, as time went on, they ended up with that. I was young, so by the time I came around and got started in the industry, I kind of caught the tail end of the money and the rock star lifestyle. Back then, people were terrified of hackers. The general public was just terrified of hackers, and they didn't know what to do about it. It was an impossible problem to solve. Everybody was afraid they were going to get hacked. So it was just panic. So everybody that was in cybersecurity was venerated like Like they were just respected, deep amount of respect for people that were cybersecurity professionals in the public, just like they were if they were a police officer or a veteran. You know, you had that level of respect, and you got the money to go along with it. So you had the respect and the money. It was a great time to be alive. Today, the media's kind of burnt the public out on breaches and everything. So people just automatically turn off the alarms in their brain that there's something bad could happen, and they just assume it's going to happen, and they just live with it. They just burnt them out, alert fatigue, the public. But it was an amazing time, and here we are today, and we have all these resources. We didn't have all the training that we do today. Back then, there was very limited amounts of training, and you couldn't find any resources to teach you how to do things. There were no how-tos, there were no guides, there were no try-hackneys, there were no any of that. You know, no Let's Defend, none of that. You really had to work really, really hard to not do things illegally and get thrown in jail. If you wanted to learn cybersecurity, you either could do it fast and illegal, or you could take more time to do it and stay out of jail, and and not risk going to jail. And it was just hard. You had to build. They didn't have the cloud like they do today. You had to build. You had to have the resources to be able to buy computers and servers to build labs, and you needed that physical equipment to and the space to put it to build the labs but all of this has been developed for you today. So today you have all this training at your fingertips, free and paid. You have an amazing amount of training available to you at low and affordable costs or free. What you're paying for today when you pay for training is the information to be accurate. That's what you're really paying for. You're paying for if you're paying for training today, you're paying for not having to waste your time studying. If you pay for something, you expect it to be accurate, and you expect it to be up to date. So that's what you're paying for. But there's plenty of free resources for anybody in the world to become proficient at cybersecurity. And today we have the most qualified entry-level cybersecurity candidates that the world has ever seen. They're the smartest and most qualified, but the work has gotten more simple. So a long time ago, there weren't the people, processes, and technology that are in place today in cybersecurity. So people had to have a lot of skill because we didn't have the processes in place, and we didn't have the advanced technology that we do today. So people had to have a lot of skill. It took a lot of skill to do this work. Over time, every company built out their processes, so things became more defined, their playbooks and written documentation of instructions on how to do everything. It doesn't take much creativity. It doesn't take much figuring out. It's already been figured out. You just have to do it, and you follow the processes. And all the tools that we work with today, they used to not be able to do much. You had to know how to tell it what to do. Today, it can kind of, with the technology of AI and machine learning and all of that, it's able to figure out a lot, how to do a lot on its own. And it's just in just the coding of it, the development of the tools have gotten so much better and more mature that it's just able to do it. The tools are able to do a lot more. And with the tools being able to do a lot more and the processes being more defined, you don't have to have as much skill. So today in a world where we have these extremely qualified and smart candidates, SOC analyst candidates, we don't need them. We don't need people to be Einstein. It's not what's going to get you the job today. What we need is people who can get along with other people with the soft skills and a baseline of technical skills. And you need a bachelor's degree, and a Security Plus would be good. Those things are good to have. They're not necessary, but they're good to have. Sec Plus is necessary. A bachelor's degree is optional, but you're competing with people that have one. So if you have the time to get it, get it. And, you need those baseline of qualifications, but after that, employers are looking to make sure that you're going to stick around for a while, that you're not going to job hop. So being overqualified actually hinders your ability. It makes you look like on paper that you're going to find another opportunity as soon as you can because you have these advanced degrees and certifications and everything. It's not good for entry level. So when you go looking for a job today, they're going to really evaluate you as a candidate and how you fit in culturally with the team. And they hire over a baseline of qualifications. They're going to hire you because they like you. If they don't know anything about you, they can't determine if they like you. So on your resume, it has to be formatted in such a way where it can send them down a funnel where you can click on a link and go to your LinkedIn. And from the LinkedIn, you can go to your Medium and your blog, and they can read about you. And you want them to invest as much time as possible in you as a candidate. That's what you want. You want them to be interested. You want to tell them as much about you as you can. Be authentic. And tell them as much as you can about yourself. And they invest in time with you as a candidate. Tell them all the projects you've worked on. Tell them your story of how you've been looking for a job and you can't find one. Tell them about the training that you took, reviews of all your training and books that you read, and tell them about your experiences, job and just experiences and becoming a stock analyst. You want to document all this. You want the employer to invest time as you as a candidate on your resume so they know you more, because that comes into the picture more of who you are, is more than it did a long time ago. A long time ago, it mattered most because skill was hard to find. Today, skill is easy to find. Skill is everywhere. There's training. There's so much training. It's not hard, and people can get up to qualified quickly. They want to know more about you as a candidate so to make sure they don't have to hire again in a year. If they hire you, they want to make sure you're going to stick around for a little bit and it's going to be pleasurable. You're not going to cause a bunch of problems. So they're looking at more of you as a candidate. Okay. I'm rambling now, so I'm gonna go ahead and close this vlog, and I hope y'all have a wonderful Sunday and a week ahead. Bye-bye.